No.
And did you ever get any money from Maya Lansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those fellas?
None of those fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the Pichettes?
No. I don't even speak to it. I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like him?
No.
Night Court with Joe Lanou, live on X.
Also known as Duck Corella.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent to
You got any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of intent to criminate.
You have any profession?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent
You have
to
any
criminate.
occupation?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent
Are
to
you a
criminate.
known racketeer?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Saturday night. That's a special night court for us. I guess we call it a Saturday night special. Tonight, we're going to do something similar to what we do on Friday nights with the police use of force review, but we're going to look at the police use of force and police tactics in other circumstances surrounding 3 school shootings. Uvalde, Texas, the Nashville Covenant School, and Parkland. We're going to watch what video we have available, information we have available, and we've got our expert here, Jason, with 3D Response, who's literally wrote, I believe, his master's on this type of stuff and has studied each and every one of these. He's got a patent on a system that would protect our schools, and we're gonna do some comparison tonight. If 3D Response were in place on these 3 particular schools at the day that these tragic incidents happened, what would it make it make a difference, or what difference could it have made? We're going to kind of look at it from that angle too. But let me introduce Jason. Jason, tell folks who you are.
Name's Jason. Been a police officer for 29 years. I got about 6-7 months left to go. Started a company back in 2014 because after teaching active shooter response to civilians and law enforcement and first responders, that it just wasn't working anymore. So we basically took the response and brought in stakeholders, which include educators, first responders, and came up with a system to enhance the training. The big thing with what we've been teaching is the building doesn't support it, so we make the building support the response.
So this system we speak of, it's something that's actually like some hardware and things that are installed into schools.
Yeah, we look at the before, the during, and the after. It's a complex situation that requires a holistic approach. So you have the prevention side to it, you have the actual response to it if the worst scenario in the world happens, and then you have the aftermath recovery and how you get through that. So there's physical components installed. There's prevention tactics that we can train and teach on and assist with, and then the consultation for how to restore normalcy if an event happens.
You know what? I've been creeping around on your website, 3dresponse.com. Let's play a video that I might have stolen from there, and see what the different components are. And then after that, what I'd like to do is go through what I've got on Uvalde, like I said, Uvalde, Texas, Parkland, Florida, and Covenant, this Nashville Covenant School shooting. I'd like to go through each one of those and play devil's advocate. If 3D Response was in play, what could it have done realistically? But let's see what 3D Response is all about.
That's where 3D Response Systems comes in. Our mission? To make schools safer for your kids through the power of a multi-layered safety system. We use the fundamental concepts of 3 C's: cover, concealment, and communication. First up, cover. Imagine a school where ballistic features, window enhancements, and automatic door locking hardware are integrated throughout the building while also blending in with existing classroom and school design. We're talking about bullet-resistant materials integrated within walls and at thresholds, as well as breach-resistant window materials, deterring entry into a classroom, and various door-securing hardware with 1,200 pounds per square inch of magnetic pressure. These features provide immediate protection against extreme violence, giving everyone precious time to react. Next, let's discuss concealment. Safe places where staff and students can hide effectively. These aren't just random spots. They are specially designated areas within classrooms and hallways to keep everyone out of harm's way. It's about making sure there's a secure place to go when every second counts. And finally, communication. In an emergency, clear and quick communication can be a lifesaver. Our system provides real-time information and updates to everyone inside and outside the building, including arriving law enforcement. How do we do it? With strategically placed emergency buttons in every classroom and key locations around the school. One push of a button and the whole system is activated. Alerts go out immediately, both visually and audibly. To everyone in the school, it also sends a message directly to emergency response personnel. It's designed to be simple in high-stress situations and guide kids to their designated safe spaces. Through an overhead PA system, real-time communication is facilitated, allowing everyone to simplify critical safety decisions during moments of significant stress. We believe that in moments of crisis, simplicity is key. Safety is also about prevention. That's why 3D Response Systems includes preventative measures by licensed mental health professionals. They conduct threat assessments and address mental health vulnerabilities before they escalate. Parents, we understand you want the best for your children, and we share that goal. Please engage with school administrators and ask your school boards how you can bring this to your schools. Ask them how you can work together to create a safer environment for everyone. Because when it comes to our kids, there's no such thing as being too prepared, so let's all work together to make your school a safe teaching and learning environment. Go to 3dresponse.com and contact us for details.
Okay, that's a pretty good video. It's kind of impressive. You know, some people say, yeah, give teachers guns, and that'll solve the problem. Some say metal detectors or shot detecting detection systems, that'll solve the problem. But it seems like 3D Response is going a little deeper than that. You've kind of got every block checked of all the things that need, from prevention to minimization if it does happen, into what happens unfortunately if an incident happened at a school, how to handle that. Am I catching that right?
Yeah, you're spot on. It's there's a lot of ideas that are thrown onto a wall that think if we're kind of stuck in this, and we've been stuck in this wash, rinse, and repeat mode for 30-40 years, where something happens and there's this a couple days of grieving, and and all these people come out and say, well, do this, and everybody becomes an expert, and all these topics come up, and then it turns into 7-8 months of a gun control debate. And the problem with this process is it's been repeating itself, and the only people that are hurting are the kids and the teachers, and we're not fixing the problem. So what we looked at was, how do we give the kids and the teachers and the cops the tools? How do we make them respond as fast as possible to take their school back? How do we empower these teachers to have an answer to, there's a threat in my hallway right now, I need help? And that gun might be 2 minutes away or a minute away. Well, that's a long time when you're in a shooting. So we are the only company focusing on the stakeholders to give them the tools to take a target rich environment and make it target less as fast as possible.
No, I can see it's pretty comprehensive from what I've seen on your website and the videos. Folks, we have with us tonight our night hosts, night crew, our co-hosts. We've got Bruce Wayne, James, and Fidji with us. You guys have any comments on this 3D system Jason's talking about before we go to the videos?
Jason, is this viewable from somewhere? Like, is it on the website?
What are you asking, Fidji?
Is it on the website? What we were just watching? That
Yes,
video?
that is a video that I might have pirated and could be subject to some federal laws and law enforcement for taking it, but it is on his website. That's 3dresponse.com.
Excellent. Thanks.
It's actually a very good video. I'm impressed with it. James, anything?
I've already decided that in my administration, I'm going to make 3D response mandatory.
And this is on your bid for the presidency of the United States in 2028. Am I right about that? That's right, folks. James is running for president in 2028. I believe next week he will start taking campaign donations. So support him on his bid for freedom. Bruce, anything about it?
My GoFundMe card's open.
That's a real good video. I liked it. I was impressed by all these features that we've heard Jason tell us all about, but actually getting to see them work, I'm quite impressed.
Well, I tell you what, let's go to a video that I don't think we're going to be as impressed with, but this is Uvalde. Now, Jason, I understand that you've looked at this particular school shooting in depth on what went right and what went wrong on this. So we're going to do a lot of pausing because I'm going to ask a lot of questions. If there's a point that you need me to pause, just chime in because there are some key points in what we're about to watch that if you were to take one of those links out of the chain, the outcome would be completely different than what it was. So let's watch this. Okay, that's the shooter arriving at the school and wrecks out. Pay attention to the time. Now, Jason wasn't he involved in another offense or crime prior to arriving to the school?
Yeah, he killed his grandmother at home, or his mom, I think, at home, and then he had a online girlfriend from Germany, and he told the girlfriend that he was going to drive to a nearby school and shoot the school up. But he murdered his I think it was his mom or grandma before he did this, which is actually common with some school shooters to see if they can actually commit the crime. But yeah, he's already killed somebody at this point.
Okay, so he drives here erratically. He wrecks out in the ditch there. Now, are these two school resource officers that are running back? Do we know who these people were?
I think there were nearby employees that came out to check and see if he was okay. And then he got out and started shooting at them, and that's why they started to run away.
Okay, and this is 11:27 is when it started.
Yeah, and that was the school camera here. That was the first 911 call, was hearing the shots.
So now he's looked like he's scaling a fence. He's not moving fast to the school. He's kind of taking his time. Now, Jason, if 3D response was installed, what would be happening right now?
The first 911 call would have activated the system throughout the entire building. So here he's going to start firing rounds into the front of the school. And once our system, if it was in play, the teacher or the front office would hit their button. The alert system across the school would go off, alerting everybody that we need to respond right now. A text message would be sent to 911. And each teacher at that point would then activate their security in their room or safe place. And our whole system would be in play.
So at this point, in this particular incident, prior to this shooter getting into the school, the magnetic doors would have come into play. The 911 text message to law enforcement they're on their way before he gets inside the school.
Yeah, so he's going to start throwing rounds into the school here now. So when a teacher, so the district or the admin office actually was the first 911 call. If it was our system, they hit a button and the teachers hear that, and every teacher hits their button. It activates 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on their door. They put the kids behind ballistic protection, and then the admin staff goes into basically a command center, and they start to dispatch over the PA where the suspect is. So with our system, go in the school. He's going to walk into a ghost town, and he's not going to be able to get into any classroom. The kids are protected behind level 7 ballistic panels. That school is safe, and we've proven.
Okay, so like in the video where it's up now, he comes in this back door. You can see a classroom door there. With got they have teachers that decorate their doors. So that door there would have a 10,000-pound magnet on it. He can't get in it, and he can't shoot through it.
Correct.
And that's what he's going to find as he walks the hallways. If your system was in place.
Correct. Yeah. There's no victims for him to target.
And while that's going on, law enforcement is it's about to rain police there at the school, isn't it? Because the message has been sent out, the alarms have been sent out already.
Yeah, cops are already on the way. That first button that was depressed, cops are on the way.
This poor young man right there. So he just went into a classroom, am I right?
Yeah, he did.
And during this time with 3D, you wouldn't be able to get into a classroom, and law enforcement are going to be alerted to exactly where he's at in the school via text message in the PA system from the command center.
Yeah, if our system's in there, the kids are behind cover now. All these shots are running into ballistic walls. The magnets from the doors. He's not getting in there. The command center's up and running. There's internal communication going on, advising the location of the suspect and whatnot. And cops are there minutes before they are in this video.
But the cops have the tools to know exactly what's going on when they get there. Am I right about that? I mean, the system. So pushing a button also alerts them geographically where the problem is in the school. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so each time you push a button, each classroom is identified via a text message onto itself. So on the police side, the dispatch are going to get Uvalde classroom 102, 103, 104, 105. So the police are going to know the whole school's in lockdown. And then when the first officer arrives, they're basically going to dispatch that officer right to where the suspect is. So come in the hallway, take a right, take a left. The suspect is on your right.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Let's talk about something else. Columbine was a bellwether moment in the way law enforcement officers reacted to a school shooting or a active shooter. Am I right about that?
Columbine was the moment that law enforcement realized that we are not doing it right.
What was the tactic that officers used prior to Columbine, and how did it change afterwards?
So prior to Columbine, it was set up a perimeter. So the first officer arrives. In this case, they position themselves outside, and then responding officers would set up a perimeter around the building, contain the building, and then they'd call SWAT in, and then SWAT would make the entry. The problem with that was SWAT is typically a 45 to 60-minute response time. So at Columbine, Harrison Klebold owned that school for hours. And the perimeter actually got in a shootout with Harrison Klebold from the library. But that was a big wake-up call to law enforcement that we, I say this a lot in your shows, Joe, but the priorities of life. The number one is the innocent. And law enforcement was ignoring the fact that there are innocent lives being taken right now and we're not going in. And that was a massive change in law enforcement for our response.
So before they kind of established a perimeter and treated it like we would treat a barricaded person, start to negotiate and try to end this as soon as possible, right?
Yeah, pretty well. In Columbine, SWAT's going in, but the paradigm shift was we can't wait for SWAT.
So now the first arriving officers, they my agency, we pair it up in twos. First two gets there, goes in, and you just keep shoving them in, essentially on a hunter killer mission. You're hunting the shooter down. You're going to put bullets in to stop him. There's not going to be talking. Not going to stop. It's the police. Let me see your hands. How's your day going? It's not going to be that type of contact. It's going to go immediately dispatch the shooter and stop the violence. Is the way we handled it after Columbine.
Well,
But
the National Tactical Officers Association, actually, after Columbine, their recommendation was a team of 4. So you'd wait for 4 cops to come, and then you'd come in, and we all trained on this diamond pattern to go in. And you're exactly right. We're no longer negotiating. We're going to take the threat out. Well, there's been shootings after that, and then law enforcement realized, okay, waiting for the team of 4 isn't enough. And then that evolved into first officer go. You're going in solo, and you take the threat out.
not great, but much more aggressive tactics. And the reason I bring that up is we're going to see what happened here in Uvalde. In my opinion, a complete failure of law enforcement. They assessed this incorrectly, in my opinion, and their actions were opposite of what they should have been. In all seriousness on my part, that's the way I feel about this. Let's finish with this tragic video. 11:35. How much time has passed, and still there's not any law enforcement on this shooter? One minute later. Jason, what's your opinion on the response?
Horrible. It's actually embarrassing, to be honest with you.
And we're not going to watch this. This is going to be a horrible display of what not to do, and quite frankly, I think untrained officers in Uvalde. I would like to go back to 3D. I do believe that 3D would have stopped this from happening. I don't think the shooter makes it inside the building, and if the shooter did make it inside the building, I don't think the shooter makes it to any students. In this 100% particular situation, we saw the halls were empty, with except for the one young man who did him some DD mal once he saw what was going on. It was children in a classroom that 3D response system would have locked down and started flooding officers there. Jason, does 3D offer anything with local law enforcement and training on your system, how to respond to it and navigate it?
Yeah. In fact, kind of loud. I don't know if you can hear me.
How's that turned it down?
Yeah. No, yeah. So after we're installed, we actually go back and we train not only the staff, but we also train local law enforcement on it. And we run the cops through your typical police response. And again, I taught it for decades without our system. Then we put the system in, and I would say 90% of them walked out of the scenario with our system and said it's a complete game changer. But I can tell you in this case, if our system was in this building, the problem with run, hide, fight, and the problem with the way we're responding to this stuff is we're too reliant on the response, and we're missing that big gap of giving the teachers and the kids the tools. So with our system in the school, I don't care if the back door is open. He walks to that door, he ain't getting in. That door is secured unless he's an explosive breach expert. He ain't getting in. The kids are behind ballistic protection. You got cover, concealment, communication. The hallways are empty. And I say this in my presentation, there is not one child harmed with our system at Uvalde, regardless of the police response. So we're missing this gap there. The gap is the threat and the response, and it's in between there. There's a big difference between alerting somebody and saying, okay, now what? And we're not answering the now what. And that's what our system we created is we give the teachers the empowerment to take their classroom and their school back literally within 60 seconds. And that's what's missing. So the police response on that actually disgusts me, coming from an active shooter response instructor and police officer for a long time. I don't know how they just sat there and listened to those shots after shots after shots, knowing that there's kids there. And actually watching that, every time I watch it, I get pissed off. Somebody should have grabbed the bull by the horn and gotten there and taken care of this idiot.
That it's very difficult to watch that because I feel the same way. Every second that goes by, every trigger pull is the threat, if not the definite end of a life of children of all things. But I hear you talking about the doors, and that's what we're saying. We're saying that once the system is engaged, one of the first things that happen are teachers are pulling their kids from the hallways, or if they're in the classroom, they're getting the door shut and they're locking it with a 10,000-pound magnet. So no human's going to be able to pull that magnet loose. But now we've got the door, and you say the doors are ballistic?
Some are, some aren't. So it just depends on the layout of the school. If the room offers the capability to protect the threshold, we will not ballistic the door. If it doesn't offer that, we'll ballistic the door.
I got you. Let's take a look at these doors. I got some more video you don't know about.
Oh boy.
That's your door?
Yep. Yeah, those are our doors. I think that's level 3.
So you got black cats? What, 3, 4 black cats on that door? How many firecrackers are you using to do that?
I think that was 3.
Fireballs. 350 grain.
And you're tamping that with a IV bag? You're tamping it with an IV bag? You got a fluid tank on the outside of the door? Or the explosive?
Yep.
This is the I don't want anybody in my house door.
And that was a kind of a joke about black cats. What actually are you guys using to try to breach these doors?
1.
So that was a level 8.
That bad boy didn't move at all.
No.
This one, based on what happened.
Folks, for those of you who've never breached a door, which
You're
probably
never gonna
a lot
hurt
of
the door.
people
Yeah.
with explosives.
I was going to say, what I'm interested in now is we can people
Hang on just a second. I got the odds back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, sorry about that. A normal door doesn't hold up to anything on a half or a quarter stick of C4. It's gonna buckle that door. It's gonna send it in. It's not gonna cause any. It's not gonna provide any resistance whatsoever. So I think your doors are pretty impressive, even on the lower level doors where they'll still kind of get a pop or a buckle on the inside, but a kinetic bullet's not going to penetrate. So go back to Uvalde. The shots are fired from outside. The shooter is not inside the building yet. He can't put any accurate or well-aimed shots on any innocent targets at this point. The buttons are pushed. These doors are engaged. Children are locked behind them, and then you also have ballistic panels that you can put up in the path uh, uh, of any potential area that bullets could come through, walls or any type of surfaces that could be penetrated. You've got ballistic panels that create a safe pocket inside the rooms.
Yes, we walk each classroom in the design process. We'll walk the classroom. We'll see how many students and teachers are occupying that particular place, and then we'll set up a space big enough that will keep everybody in that room safe. So you're exactly right, and that's why I say there's not one life lost with our system the way that Uvalde panned out, because by the time he got there, he's got no victims, and he can do suppressive fire, whatever. Those kids have true cover, and they're going to be fine.
And we're talking about Uvalde in particular, going reverse engineering it, so to speak, with your system in place, absolutely would have saved lives.
100% without hesitation, I can tell you. The way that broke down based upon timelines and our case studies and our drills we've run, Uvalde would have been locked down completely in about 45 seconds. By the time he got in that building, there's nobody to target. He's not getting any rooms. The teachers would have taken their school back and kind of gave the middle finger to him, say, "Not today, dude, wrong school."
He'd have enough time to shoot as many rounds as he want without a target until the police got there and dispatched him. Correct?
Yes.
Maybe they could have at that point if he'd been maybe an easier target, because I've got nothing good to say about the officers that responded to that school. Nothing.
No, nor do I. And I gave them the benefit of the doubt at the first when the story first came out, but I always wait to comment until I read the actual FBI report. And my mind went to you have a fluid situation that turns into a static one, a roaming active shooter into a barricaded suspect with hostages. But then when I saw the video, I was disgusted with what I saw.
Yeah, initially I did too. I'm thinking, well, I can see the scenario. It's dynamic, so it can change. I can see the scenario changing where your tactics might change. But I agree. Once I see the video, that's not the opinion that I have. They should have done what law enforcement is supposed to do. You have a duty not to retreat. It almost made my stomach turn to see that guy run down the hallway with his vest undone, rubbing the back of his head because he got hit with something.
No, the other thing too, I mean, every time you watch a video, it's lessons learned. So if you look at what we just watched, if you have, even if there's I'm a former school resource officer, I'm not where I need to be when I need to be there. So when he makes his way into the room and the room was connected to another room, so you talk about a fox in the hen house. You took 25 kids in one classroom, and all of a sudden now you have 50 targets, and you barricaded yourself in there. We're missing that point of shit happens so fast that we're not giving these children or these teachers the tools to have an answer to it. It's one thing to notify, hey, we have a problem. It's another thing to say, I have a solution. It's one thing to say we have a gun on campus. It's another thing to say the gun was in the right place when it needed to be there. And that's the big thing that everybody's overlooking, is we're not giving the tools to the stakeholders. And that's what we do.
Okay, you're selling me on it. I like what I'm seeing so far. Let's go to the Nashville, Tennessee Covenant School shooting. Let's see the security video first. So there it is arriving in the masculine hatchback. Looks like it's going to smartly park.
And by the way, I think this was number 5 in a series of active shooters where the active shooter suspect was transgender. There's a pattern going on there that, and I'm not saying that to be rude. It's a fact. I think there was 5 or 6 that were transgender.
So these are exterior doors. Is the vestibule, which means there's 2 doors. Were these doors locked? Is that why it shot the glass out?
I don't know if she or he tried it. That's how she got in.
So alarms are going off. So staff and children know something's going on. But at this point, this shooter pretty much owns the school, doesn't she, Jason? I mean, she goes where it goes where it wants to go without impunity. It's not being engaged, not being challenged. No doors are locked.
Yeah, that's pretty much every school shooting I've studied. Once that first shot is fired, they own that school, and then until they decide that it's done.
Well, and with your system, correct me if I'm wrong, they would have turned this room right here. It would turn this room into a box that the shooter couldn't get out of, right? They just lock those doors by the push of a button.
With our system, this scenario doesn't go this far.
I think with his scenario, they can't. It couldn't get through the glass doors. Because I know you and I have had this conversation before, Jason. You don't necessarily go with ballistic glass and everything, but you make whether it can be film or other types of panel glass. You make it that even if it cracks and breaks, it's like your windshield. You can't get through it. You may be able to send a bullet through it, but you can't get your body through it.
Right. So this is a lot like Sandy Hook. You shoot it, it makes a hole. It's not bulletproof. And there's a lot of products out there. Some are better than others, and we vetted them all. And we recommend what we think is best. But if our system was in this school, that first shot, the window would have maintained its integrity for quite a while. She would have had to shoot, up about 90 seconds or so to make a hole big enough for her to get into the building. And in that vestibule, because of the action she did, she would have been doused with our suspect identification system, which you saw in the video where that yellow spray comes out and coats them yellow. Tennessee does not happen. I mean, she doesn't get, or he doesn't get to where she is just wandering the hallways like that with our system at all.
I forget about the powder spray, I'll call it. That's got to affect your senses as well. Eyesight. I mean, you're coated with this stuff. It's got to be able to. It's got to be in a manner. It's got to reduce your effectiveness.
Well, number one, I think it's going to be a surprise. Number two, you're going to lose your vision because, I mean, we can fill a vestibule up with that in about 2 seconds where you can't see anything. And now you're covered in yellow. So it's kind of like the bank robbery die pack. You rob a bank, you open the bag, and boom, you get blasted. So, and then it also turns into a police tool. On top of that, it provides concealment for the people inside that once you hit that button, all of a sudden you take away their vision, and the people inside, the innocent, have an opportunity to get to their safe place, to get behind the cover and the concealment. And the whole system would start like that. So that's where that school, I think, was lacking a little bit. You just, even if she got through that and she went to the door, opened the door. I mean, our sister, she ain't getting through that door. I mean, she's pinned down. She's covered in yellow. Tennessee is a completely different outcome with our system.
Okay. Now, let's watch the law enforcement response to this shooting and maybe kind of compare it to what Uvalde did.
Just got an update. It's going to be first floor, main lobby of what? I'm making entry on the front side. I got a civilian that's coming in here.
The kids are all locked down, but we have 2 kids that we don't know where they are.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Into my window, so they're upstairs.
Hey. Timmy.
So essentially, these staff members outside that waited on the police, they're doing what your system does by telling law officers, "This is the best I know, and here's where the suspect's at." Right?
Yeah, with our system, he walked up and that would have been broadcasted outside. He would have got out of his squad car and they would have said, "Officer, I see you. You need to come in these front doors right now." And we also use lanyards, so there's no keys in our system. And once our system's deployed, every lanyard the teacher owns is deactivated, and the only key cards that work are the police officers. So he would have stepped out of his car and said, "Officer, I see you. Come through the front vestibule. Come inside."
Give me 3. Let's get 3.
Sorry, I get the volume down a little bit, but I do want to hear how these officers are speaking. So essentially, once this school goes on lockdown, it's going to take law enforcement to start opening doors.
Correct.
Let's go.
And they would have access, let's say a room's locked by the magnetic lock. Law enforcement have access to that too as well.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, and with our system, you're not clearing these rooms because you know exactly where the suspect is. I mean, they're doing a great job based upon the tools that they have, but with our system, they're walking past this door.
That's what I want folks to pay. Pay attention to the time from the first key turn until this is over. Because until then, the shooter's in charge.
Door. With me. Hold the door. Next.
And Jason, what's the hazard of these guys bypassing a room and the shooter being in the room? Essentially bypassing the shooter by not, because they have to check every room. They don't know where he's at. Am I right?
No, they're doing what they should do because they don't know where the shooter's at. With our system, they're going to know exactly where the shooter's at. So you take a search and you turn it into a hunt. Right now they're searching because they lack information.
And they're still on the first floor, and the shooter is on the second floor, but they've got to clear the first floor in case the information is not correct.
Yes.
And folks, this is not a very big school. That's another thing about this. This is not your typical public school. I believe it was a private school.
It's upstairs. It sounds like it's upstairs.
Yeah, with our system, we've had police officer suspect interaction in about 40 seconds.
Okay. There's a key moment coming here. Let's listen.
Push the LPV up.
We missed it. Everybody pay attention. The gunshots you're hearing there are the suspects. No law enforcement has discharged a firearm at this point. But they know upstairs. They don't know where upstairs. They're going to where the gunfire is. In this case, the actor was actually shooting out the window at arriving police officers. Was not shooting children. but each one of those bullets could have been a child, and the officers are still trying to figure out which way the sound came from the right. So he's announcing it right, right, right. So at this point, they still are not sure where the shooter is, but they're dialing in because of the sound of the gunfire.
Push the LPV up. Push the LPV up. Reloading. Move, move. Watch out, watch out. Stop moving. Get your hands away from the gun. Watch left. Get your hands away from the gun. Secondary. Get secondary. Provide security. Hey, hold the air. Go, go. They go second floor.
This is the second team.
I don't have a radio closet. Give me enough. No, locked door. Where did they go in? First floor, first floor, first floor. Hold there, y'all. Somebody hold there. Hit that door. Rifle first. Rifle first. Blue, go. Go, 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 go. Go. Move. Move. I'm with you. Go left. Straight, straight.
Check every bathroom in the closet.
It's locked. Go. Hit that stair. Hit the stairs. Go. Go stairs. Go stairs. Go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. I got it. Go. Ready? One down. Keep pushing. Go. Shots fired. Shots fired. Shots fired. Move. Right, right, right.
Everybody knows the pause. He's trying to make a decision left or right. And it wasn't until gunfire had gone off. If the shooter had been quiet, they could have easily gone left and continued this, make this search string out a little bit longer.
Push with LPV up. Push with LPV up. Go right. Reloading. Move, move. Watch out, watch out. Move. Stop moving! Stop moving! Watch left, watch left. Suspect down, suspect down. Secondaries provide security.
Okay, and we talked a little bit about this as the video goes, but once again, if 3D response was in this school, the glass, even if it was had the ability for a bullet to pass through it, it would have maintained its integrity so that the shooter couldn't have physically gotten into the building. If the shooter was able to get through the outer vestibule, it still has the inner vestibule to negotiate, and during that time, a school is going to have a marking system or deploys a powder to one, mark the suspect, and two, disorient the suspect. Am I right about that? Am I still live? You still guys have me?
Yeah, I got you.
I got you.
Okay.
No, you're right. And with our system, we don't protect the outer glass. We protect the inner glass. So you kind of create a box. So they shoot through the one, and then they alert the school, and then they get blasted with the yellow spray. And even if they make it through that point, which I don't think they will, the fact that she had access to those other doors, that's removed. Yeah, in this case too, it's the element of surprise always lies with the suspect, but the way the entry was made in this one, with the tools that we have in place, the element of surprise is taken away really, really quick.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with our listener, our viewer B. Learning how preventable this is and knowing the choice is made against our children is disgusting. I share that sentiment. But going back to the first round, let's go to Covenant. Nobody knows crazy trans kids outside and it's going to come in and try to kill innocent children. The first rounds go off into the glass. At this point, the first button pushed is the first notification of law enforcement. So the clock is ticking for law enforcement. They put their cars in drive and they've got their lights and sirens on, and they're coming to this location. Am I right about that?
Yeah, and for the listeners, that's a great point. I want people to realize that the first shot with just training or some sort of metal detector, you're not activating a system. So with our system, once that first shot is fired, the entire school goes into a mode based upon a multi-layered system that has been designed for that building. And that's where, in this case, once that first glass was broken, they can take their school back because there's 9 different layers installed in there to empower the school to say, not today, dude, we're ready. And
that's 9 layers that your suspect is going to have to defeat to be successful at killing children.
Yes.
That's pretty deep. Okay, I see your point on Uvalde. You sold me that. I agree. I see no victims at Uvalde. I see no victims at Covenant with 3D response. We still got Parkland. Now, Parkland was a pretty rough one. This is a tough one. What I've found is a Parkland animation with a timeline with little pieces of video of how things occurred in a chronological order throughout the entire event. I think for most of us, watching Uvalde was a little tough, listening to the gunfire. But I would say, especially us former law enforcement, I think this one's going to be harder to stomach. We're going to be listening to the chaos and confusion that happens in a situation like this, and then we'll see if maybe 3D response has something for that. But I think that's going to stand out for everybody. But let's jump into Parkland. So Medina, is he an officer or a school staff person?
I honestly don't know.
He's got a golf cart.
He's probably a cop then.
Yeah, it probably does have a donut holder.
If you guys want to know that conversation, I can tell you.
The conversation he had with that student?
Yeah. He told him to get out.
And I see him exiting stage left as he should be. So now Cruz is in this building 12.
What's your birthday?
Hello, we're at Stoneman Douglas High School, and I think there's a shooter.
Hello? You still there? Talk to me, please.
First call to 911, 45 seconds after the first shot.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, I just got a call from Douglas High School. A female on the line advised they believe there's a shooter at the school.
Okay, at Douglas High School in
Yes,
what city?
in Parkland, 5901
Oh,
Pine
okay.
Island.
5901 Pine Island?
Yes.
Okay, let me see if they're working anything there. And a second-hand information from a student?
A female called in. It sounded like possible shots in the background. I think I heard 5 or 6 in 2 different bursts.
Okay, Jason. What is 3D response? Does it solve the confusion we have with this 911 call? The second 911 call, by the way.
100%. I would actually just let's play this one through because I spoke with a teacher who got shot twice by Nicholas, who works in a city where we're installed. So let's just play this one through, and I want to tell you his story after it's done.
Okay.
17 Juliet 3, 17 Bravo 3, 17 Bravo 4.
17 Juliet 3, we have possible, could be firecrackers. I think we got shots fired. Possible shots fired. 1200 building.
Attention all units in District 15, possible shots fired at 5901 Pine Island Road at Stoneman Douglas High School. Possible shots fired at Stoneman Douglas High School.
Tango 2 en route. 1584 en route. 17 Juliet 3, make sure we get some units over here. I need to shut down Stoneman Douglas. The intersection.
10-4.
Photo 49 en route. 3 Bravo on my call.
10-4.
Thank you for what's the address?
5901 Pine Island.
We're talking about the 1200 building. It's going to be the building off of Holmberg Road. Any descriptions? I'm coming up from Westlake Middle. We don't have any description yet. We just hear shots, but there appears to be shots fired. I'm over on the south side, over by the 700 building. Tango 2, I'm shutting down eastbound Holmberg at the divide between Blades and the high school. 17 Bravo 1, I'll get the west side of Stoneman on Holmberg.
10-4, west side of Holmberg.
7 Juliet 4 responding. Hey, Juliet 1. Tango 2, I hear shots fired by the football field. Shots fired by the football field.
Shots fired by the football field, heard.
17 Juliet 3, we're looking at the 1200 building. It's going to be the 300 building. It's going to be right off of Holmberg Road by the senior lot. Get the school locked down, gentlemen.
Attention all units now working this signal 33. Go to Bravo channel for regular traffic.
Some students say they thought it was firecrackers and we're not sure. By the football field. All right, 26. So we also heard it over by inside the 1200 building. We're locking down the school right now. Make sure there's no pedestrian traffic anywhere on Holmberg Road. 15 Echo 2 on 51.
Unit advising 51.
I just had one of the fire admin go by and make reference to an active shooter at Douglas. Anything to that?
10-4 Kilo 23, there is an active shooter working at Douglas. Multiple gunshots are being fired. We can hear them in the background. Our 911 lines are blowing up. We have multiple units on the phone. Some are giving EMD. It is confirmed.
All districts have the units. Go to Bravo. I need a unit to the 5 eyes. Bravo 3, we need somebody to shut down Holmberg at Pine Island.
Unit to shut down Holmberg, advise.
Holmberg shut down. We're going to building 13 of the 900 building. We have shots fired. I'm trying to get the fence open.
Building 13 and 900 building.
Do not approach the 12 or 1300 buildings. Stay at least 500 feet away at this point.
Stay away from 12 and 1300 building.
Units go to the north side. Units go to the north side of the school. Tango 2, I got a victim with a gunshot to the right leg. To the gunshot to the right leg. Show me the west end of the high school by the football field.
GSW right leg, west end by the football field.
.39 white male, ROTC uniform.
White male, ROTC uniform.
Burgundy shirt.
Burgundy shirt.
Juliet 39, last seen in the 3-story building, north parking lot.
10-4 last seen, 3-story building in the north parking lot. Juliet 39, is he still shooting?
Victim saying it's a male in a hoodie he could not describe with at least an AR-15, if not an AK-47. 54. One with the Douglas's SRO, getting info.
Tier 2 call out SWAT for them.
10-4 tier 2.
Navy 35, I'm at the north side of the city. I'm at building 13. That's two BSO guys that are moving forward. If you can hook up with Carl Springs dispatch, I was advised by one of their officers, possibly 3 additional victims in the 3-story building. Possible suspect with an ROTC uniform. We can hook up with them and verify.
Sierra 1. 17 Sierra 1.
I know there's a lot going on. Do we have the perimeter set up right now and everybody clearing out of the school?
That's negative.
Ten and a half minutes since the first shot fired, and there was a school resource officer on campus for this incident. And the first officers arriving to Building 12 right now where the initial shots were fired. At almost 11 minutes.
Sierra 1.
17 Sierra 1.
Golf 11, we got multiple golf units around.
Golf units are en route. 17 Sierra 1, go ahead.
17 Sierra 1, I want to make sure that we have a perimeter set up and the school's being, all the kids are getting out, but we need to shut down around this school. Does the Delta unit have a place where we're setting up for all the units coming into the area?
10-4. They're advising that the school is on lock.
Have a command post set up, so we have a perimeter around it. We have two teams going in, checking right now.
10-4, which way are they going into the school?
Entering from the north side through the parking lot where the students park.
Now, Jason, are we watching with these little as these dots move, where the officers are gathering, and then they'll move forward? This is the wait for forward to arrive and put together a team and then go in.
Yeah, pretty much. They're on a victim search now. Quite honestly, they have no idea if the
But
suspects.
they don't know that.
No,
They
I
don't know.
I know.
Yeah.
But that they're going to find out that it's a victim search now. The suspect, they have no idea where the victim is. And this is what, 12 minutes later? And they're finally going in?
14 minutes.
Yeah. The video lost audio, Joe.
It breaks out. The only audio in there are the radio transmissions.
Oh, okay.
But unbeknownst to the officers on scene, the actor has actually departed that building. And I'm not sure on the graphic where he's at this point.
He actually blended in with a bunch of fleeing kids. Kind of joined the herd and
All right, that's the end of the video. Let's go back to the first part of it. We know that even if a suspect gets in with your system, even if a suspect's able to get into a doorway covertly, in other words, not shoot their way through, they're just an open door and they get inside the building. From the time the first shot or the first time they're discovered as being a threat and buttons are pushed, then doors are starting to shut. Children are starting to get behind cover and concealment and isolated from areas that would make them vulnerable. And law enforcement is automatically dispatched. Like if you pull a fire alarm, the fire department, nobody calls the fire department. They get the reading. They know the fire alarm's gone off, and they know which one it is in the school. So that's happening with your 3D response system, right?
yeah, and I really just I want to, if you don't mind, Joe, I want to give the story to, his name's Ron. And Ron was substitute teaching in the district, one of the districts that we're installed in, and he had no idea our system was in that school. Ironically, on that day, they did a lockdown drill with our system. And when the drill was done, Ron realized all he had to do was push this button and all this stuff happened. Well, Ron then called his kids in and told the kids, and this is a middle school, he says, you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have this system. And turns out Ron was shot by Nicholas Cruz twice. when the video you saw where Nicholas Cruz entered the stairwell into the hallway, Ron's classroom was 2 doors down from there. And Ron was teaching at the time. He said his door was open and he heard what he thought was a gunshot. And he immediately went to the door and looked down the hallway and he saw a female student on the ground. And Nicholas Cruz was a student there, and he identified him as Nick. And he also said, we all knew this was going to happen. Nick was just that guy. And all the teachers had their hair stand up in the back of their head about Nick. And which ties into the prevention side of things. I could go in the weeds on that side to it, but he closed his door, but he couldn't get his door locked because he was so nervous and frantic. His hands were shaking. He said, I couldn't get my door locked. So there, the door opens outwards. And he said, I put my left foot on the door frame and I put 2 hands on the handle and told himself, you're not going to take my kids. And he held that door shut with everything he had. And he said after he heard a few more shots, Nicholas was on the outside of his door and they were in this tug of war. And he said the pulling stopped, and then all of a sudden a round came through and hit Ron in the ear, and another round came through the door and hit Ron in the hip. And then he said the fire alarm went off. And then he said the shooting stopped. He thought Nicholas had left the school. So Ron goes outside. He says there's 3 or 4 people that were shot in the hallway, and he started to do CPR. Well, at the same time, the fire alarm being pulled, Nicholas went upstairs to the 2nd floor, and everybody was fleeing their classrooms and going to an exit point, and Nicholas started shooting everybody when they were kind of this logjam fatal funnel was created, and that's where most of his victims were killed. When Ron was talking, he didn't know the complete system, so when I met with him and I told him about the magnetic door locks and the police button and the ballistics, I don't know if any of you ever have been in a shooting or understand what PTSD is, and I love Ron to death. He's 65 years old. He's been a teacher forever, and he went through hell after this. He actually saved one of the girls' lives, who actually unfortunately committed suicide a year later. But when I told Ron about the magnetic door, and his brain went to this loop pattern, and he told me 4 or 5 times so I wouldn't have had to hold the door. And I said, no, Ron, the mag would have held it for you and you could get your kids to a safe place. And he repeated that and repeated it to the point where I grabbed him by his shoulder. I said, Ron, it's good, dude. This is good. So keep in mind, Parkland is a very affluent, very money. I mean, it's an upper buck city. And I asked Ron, what did they have in place before this? And Ron said the entire staff thought we were safe because we had A, B, and C. And then when shit actually hit the fan, Ron said, we were nothing prepared. So with our system at Parkland, unfortunately, we can't stop the first few rounds. I mean, he has the element of surprise. But once that first shot is fired, Ron could have hit his button and notified all these buildings, the 2nd floor, 3rd floor, and Nicholas goes up, pulls the fire alarm, goes upstairs, and you've taken a target-rich environment. You've taken it back. The school is ours. There's victims, yes, but we can minimize the loss of life. The cool part about it was I was walking out with Ron after I was showing him the system in his school. He will never work in a school ever again if our system is not in that building. And coming from a guy who was shot twice by Nicholas Cruz, that was where I went, we did it. Man, the fact that he called his kids back in and said how lucky you are, it was an unbelievable conversation. he suffers from stress and PTSD so bad that I don't want to publicize him just out of my friendship with him. And the dude's a hero. He saved every child in that classroom.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And he works now at a school with 3D response, and that's what it makes him feel comfortable to go to work because he likes the system or he trusts the system.
No, because he actually knows that there's actually physical components and prevention components and the whole multi-layered system, and the effort that this district went into to make sure everybody teaches in a safe learning environment, and they take it so seriously that he will not work anywhere else. And the ability for Ron to say, okay, I can just teach, and I know if something happens, I just have to do this and my kids are safe. That's where we made Ron comfortable to teach again. And that's a testimony that I don't care if people think our system is stupid or not, but the ability to say that a guy who actually lived through it, coming from a guy who's actually been in shootings, I mean, him and I connected immediately, and that meant the world to me that this guy will only teach in a building that we're installed in. And it's powerful. And like I said, everybody's got ideas on this topic on how to fix it, and they range from A to Z, but we are convinced that we need to give these kids the tools and the teachers the tools to take their school back, and that's what's missing.
No, I agree. And we're talking. We have Carl in here, and when Carl and I met you, you come into some X spaces, and you were saying crazy stuff like we got to give the kids the tools and the teachers the tools to take their school back, and we were all pretty much sold on the fact that at least give teachers a gun. That's my opinion. At least give teachers a gun, give them an opportunity to have a chance. I don't know if a teacher's going to be able to do it or not, but I'd rather have some good bullets flying around that hallway or the classroom versus the bad bullets, and get a chance to put this cat down. Guys, if you look at the graphic, I believe 1255 is where Ron was at. If you'll watch how that transpired, I can run it back. The one person in there wounded, which I think is Ron in that classroom at 1255. Nope, I got to jump back over here. But Carl's here, and I wanted Carl to kind of give some insight on that because he and I, don't take this the wrong way, Jason. We kind of talked about you a little bit behind your back after those first few times until we learned what 3D response really was. But Carl, you want to chime in on how you feel about 3D response? And we're talking about Parkland right now. I know you're late getting in, but I've got a graphic showing the movement of Nicholas Cruz going. I'm about to play it. The story that Jason just told, I believe, is the story of this 1255 classroom. If you'll watch the dots, and the outcome of that is that the only person in there wounded was the teacher because he saved everyone else's life by literally holding the door because he didn't have a 10,000-pound magnet holding the door for him. And it wasn't a ballistic door. Nope, didn't go back far enough. Carl, are you with us? He may be having some mic trouble. But folks, if you're watching this graphic, as long as it's been going on is in real time. This is real time how long Nicholas Cruz was inside the 1200 building, literally shooting children that had no place to go, no place to hide, no way to defend themselves. And help was on the way. But if you listen to the dispatch, help was pretty confused. They were calling out shots at a football stadium nearby. They were calling out shots at the building next door because they just didn't know exactly what was going on. And anybody that's worked in first responders or military and has been in intense or high intensity types crisis situations, I'll tell you that the information that's flowing over the radio, don't count on. It's everybody's first impression of what they see. They announce it. The real story will come out later. The real stuff comes out later, and you kind of can see that in some of this radio traffic as to what buildings they're going to, whether it's firecrackers, whether it's the football stadium or not, where the actor is, they had no idea. There was even one point where somebody in command was calling out to stay 500 feet from the building. And the whole time, watching this black dot and the little green dots turning to blue, those are dead children. The yellow ones are wounded. The green ones were not impacted physically, but 100% impacted mentally. But you see Nicholas Cruz now go back down the stairs, and he's going to depart the building to be apprehended at some other point. Law enforcement finally gets into the building to do what Jason said, and that's a victim search. Go see what the guy did, because they're not going to prevent it. They're there too late. And I'll go back again. I think the thing that impresses me the most about the 3D response is that immediately law enforcement is on its way. Because it takes law enforcement a minute to get their business together. Audio problems. It takes law enforcement a minute to get their business together when they get there, to understand what's going on, to comprehend what's going on, to make the assessment when they get there is what action needs to be applied. The more information that you can feed those responders as they're approaching, the better they're going to be when they get there to react properly to whatever type of situation that's going to be there before them. And that's my opinion. I like the ballistic doors. I like the hidden panels, which, by the way, if you'll go to 3D response, one thing that's impressive about it, you can't tell. It doesn't look like a jail. It doesn't look like a fire base either. It looks like dry erase boards. I mean, it looks like common things that you find in schools already. They're just making those dual purpose, both an eraser board that can be pulled out and used as a ballistic shield. The doors with the magnetic locks. I showed you the video of using C4 to try to breach those doors. Super impressed with that. I've done that quite a few times. I like explosive breaches. I've never seen even the best wooden or even steel door is not going to hold up to a tamped door knocker on the outside of it, because it's literally a steel door. It's going to bend it right in the middle, and it makes the edges shorter. So that door just goes right in. It offers no resistance whatsoever. Very impressed with that. But Jason, and you've been doing this since 2014. How many schools are you in right now?
So right now we're in District 194, which has 16 schools. We're in a private school. We currently have contracts with 1, 2, 3 more schools. And then we also have a daycare center that we've kind of morphed over into that world a little bit. We have a contract with them. And then we just had a few meetings last week with some medical clinics. And we also have, I walked a few legislators through some of our system, and they walked out and kind of said, why isn't this in every fucking school in our nation? And why aren't you on Fox News right now? And kudos to Elliot Engen, state rep from Minnesota. Great kid. He wrote a bill called the SHIELD Act last year. And since he wrote that bill, 14 other states have picked up that bill, and to try to get this in as many schools as possible. So we're in about physically installed in just under 20 buildings. We have a lot kind of on the burner. We also have another district that's going out for referendum for our system. They have another, I think, 14 schools to get our system in their building. So I think people are starting to kind of wake up that all these ideas that we've just been throwing on the walls, and people talk about, I won't go down the rabbit hole of security, the concept of security, but we're kind of the fire suppression system of an active shooter response. And the fire suppression system has been proven to be beyond successful to keep people alive. And yeah, I could go off on that topic, but
well, let me ask you about another topic. What can people that are watching? I see the comments on the side. We've got viewers that sound like what I would call drank the Kool-Aid, that they, like myself and many others, think this is absolutely something that needs to be in every school. What can we do to get it into our schools, or who do we need to call? Who needs to receive emails or letters? What would help get the SHIELD Act off the ground? Because the SHIELD Act provides funding for independent school districts to put systems like this in place. Am I right?
Yeah. So interesting topic. You go back, and I'm going to phrase it this way: when you talk about liability for an independent school district or any entity that's out there, the threshold for being liable is, did you do everything you could to prevent loss of life or injury? If you can't answer yes to that question, you will be found liable. Uvalde is up in the billions of dollars in lawsuits right now because they were found liable. So with that in mind, I go back to when COVID was going on, and I watched you know these activist groups. By activists, I'm talking about the Proud Boys, Black Lives Matter, and all this political bullshit rhetoric was going on. Um, they were the squeaky wheel, and because they were so loud, school districts, and I'm talking Minnesota, listened to them, and they kind of got their wishes granted. The same thing needs to happen with this topic. So my call to action to anybody, if you really want to keep your kids safe, you need to speak up about it. You need to go to your school board meetings and need to ask them, what are you doing for safety? And if they give you an answer, we have visitor management and we have cameras, or we have artificial intelligence. You need to respond with, what are we doing for my kids? Because all these topics are not giving the tools to the kids. Why aren't you doing what the fire suppression system did? And they will listen to the squeaky wheels. This topic, we started this not one insight of being political at all. Zero. It's political, and I've learned that because we're doing what we're doing. We've been viewed as right leaning, and this topic should never be right or left. This is about keeping our children safe, and it's been a very, very frustrating experience of mine, but I am completely driven to get this thing accomplished. And we didn't start this to make money. We started it to have an effective response, because I think the last 30, 40 years have proven what we're doing is not effective.
Okay, guys, I've got you see a split screen, and I've seen this before. You've got the one on the right. This is a 3D response officer, the 3D systems in the school. The one on the correction. The one on the right, not 3D response. The one on the left is 3D response. The officer is doing what we saw they did in Covenant. They're searching the school, listening. He's using all of his senses to try to determine where the threat is, so he can get there as quick as possible and air it out and end it. So the officer in the white, that's what he's doing. The officer in the blue is responding through 3D response. Do you see how he's not looking left or right? He does a left or right, but he knows where he's going. He's not listening for sounds. He gets to the school where the button's pushed, uses a key card. Threat's over. Threat's over at 54 seconds. The other officer has not arrived to where the threat is. Now count bullets. How fast can someone pull the trigger on a rifle or any other type of firearm where one bullet can take a life? Still going, by the way. And this is the way our officers are responding to schools that aren't outfitted with a 3D response system. This is the way they're responding now. The best officers with the best intentions and the best training almost cannot cut this time down, because they've got to navigate these huge buildings that echo, listening for gunfire, or taking half reports that can be confusing or just inaccurate or not timely, to try to guide their decisions. But look how big this building is. These hallways, these are danger areas. It's not a place you want to be. That's where we want to keep the shooter, by the way, with 3D response. Lock them doors and keep his ass in that hallway. But I think that's the most powerful video that I've seen. In fact, it's the one that convinced me. Carl, you back with us? Can you hear us? Guess not. But I know it's also the one that convinced Carl. by seeing that video is what convinced me is the fact that that's exactly what we need. Go back to was there a school resource officer on campus in Uvalde, Jason?
Yes,
Covenant did not have a school resource officer, did they?
correct.
But Parkland did have at least one officer on duty there, the Peterson cat, right?
Correct.
So we had cops on. When I say the response time should have been immediate because cops are already there. They're already on campus. But Jason brings up a good point as a former RSO or a school resource officer, or SRO, I think is what it's called. But go back to the guy in the white shirt, the officer in the white shirt that's meandering through the hallways trying to find the shooter. You may be in a school that's large enough that you won't hear the shots. You're getting dispatched like you're in a patrol car blocks away or a mile away. You're at that point now, you've got to try to figure out what's going on as you try to get to wherever the shooter is, where you think the shooter is, to try to stop them. The 3D response, I think, is the most powerful thing in there is that automatically it starts wheels turning towards the schools. And when the officers get there, they have a better idea to be able to navigate themselves to where the threat is and get the threat eliminated. Because go back again, count that time, count the seconds in between in that video from the 3D response officer getting to the school and neutralizing the threat to the guy in the white still going. And it was sped up. I mean, what was it, like a 2-minute or 3-minute time difference, Jason?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. And folks, you guys with familiarity with firearms knows exactly what I'm about to say. There's a whole lot of rounds you can fire in 3 minutes. There's a whole lot of lives you can take in 3 minutes. What Jason's system does is not only does it start hardening the targets, it makes it more difficult, and there's 9 layers of obstacles for a shooter to get through before they can get to a victim. But while they negotiate those 9 obstacles, more obstacles are on their way. And that's in the form of law enforcement with good guns getting there. If there's a school resource officer on campus, the response will be even faster because he'll know the school better than other officers. But
everything you just said is spot on, but I want the audience to recognize while what Joe said is going on, that the response time is so much quicker. At the same time, every child and every teacher in that building took their building back. So when officers arrive with our system, they walk into a ghost town. Kids are protected and they're hunting for the suspect. So it's a fluid situation that you have so much going on. It's a system, and that's what's missing there. And I think somebody just said, no, we put a big focus on our system. The only thing you can see in our system is a police button on the walls. That's it. Outside of that, it's all hidden.
I think it's impressive. There's a news report that I'm about to play on the Lakefields school system that shows the system installed. Without somebody pointing at it, I don't think that you would recognize it. But it is impressive how you've been able to conceal this in normal items, features, and things that you would normally see in a school that you're able to turn, like doors. Every school's got a door, but yours are reinforced and can be shut that a human being's not going to be able to open it. And clearly, explosives not really are able to open it either. But let's take a look at this.
There's no audio.
You give me a second. I'm working on that. I'm having some more audio issues. For some reason, it wants to bounce back.
Security. Lakeville area schools has made this.
Let's watch that again.
Schools should be a safe place.
That statement seems like a no-brainer, right? But the fact is, school districts have to be proactive about it.
So you're going to need to sign in, and here's the pass.
Maybe even try a new approach.
We are first and foremost focused on how do we
have a layered approach to safety and security.
Lakeville Area Schools has made this a priority, from Superintendent Michael Bauman to the school board to the public. In 2019, they passed a levy and bond referendum that helped add an additional school resource officer to the middle schools. They set up an anonymous reporting system and added a psychologist to handle threat assessments.
We know that the kids that have been active shooters have had struggles, and at some point, maybe if someone would have intervened in a different way, maybe we could have headed that off. And I do feel in our district that we've had numerous situations over the last few years that we have made an impact on kids.
Reality is, not all threats get caught in time. So Lakeville went one step further.
When we came up with the system, we wanted to answer all those what if questions.
They partnered with Minnesota-based 3D Response Systems.
We understand that the prevention is the most important piece, and to develop those relationships with the people in your building is the most important thing you can do. Now, if one slips through the cracks, which in a population of like this school of 1,500 kids, but it's very possible, then our system comes into play to keep as many people safe as we possibly can.
3D Response Systems is a multi-layered design to get the police there faster and provide tools for the people inside to survive. The company was started by police, firefighters, educators, and parents. It takes the active shooter training, run, hide, fight, and adds 3 things they say makes it more effective: cover, concealment, and communication.
Cover is something that's going to protect you from like a bullet. Concealment is something that I can't see you. Communication is having constant active communication to keep you in the know.
Almost all of it is out of sight, so you don't lose the feeling of a teaching space. The only visible signs are the police buttons on the wall in every room, in every building.
You simply push a button, and when you push that button, you've sent a text message to dispatch that says, police needed at room 102, Lakeville North High School. And each room, when they hit their button, a new text message will be sent. It also activates 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on your door, so you get a nice tight seal and you're not going to get through that door. And then lastly, it sets off the alert system both inside and outside the school.
Hidden ballistic panels can be pulled out of the walls if needed, and cameras help the officers responding get to where the threat is faster.
That's part of the communication piece that comes in. So the teachers know exactly where the intruder is. When the first officer arrives, they can talk to the officer and say he's on the 3rd floor by room 302.
Lakeville has installed the system in both high schools and is working its way through every school in the district. A system they hope they never have to use. But having it is peace of mind, because just hoping it never happens isn't.
Okay, that's a little news program that was done on the 3D response system. Okay, I got the audio killed. But did you guys notice? Did you notice any ballistic panels, steel doors, ballistic glass, anything that looked like making it look like a prison or a fortress? Did y'all notice that they showed the panels there? I think it's Safe Wood or Wood Safe. Is some sort of a brand name that was a sticker on it, but that panel pulls out kind of like a pocket door to block the pathway, the fatal funnel that a doorway creates.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice any of that. It tucks away, hides, looks just like a normal school. It's really great. Did notice a handsome looking officer there speaking about it.
Well, I was thinking they were pretty lucky there at Lakeville to have Officer McGruff to come in and help them out with that whole situation. That's pretty awesome. Taking a bite out of crime.
Celebrity.
Keep going, guys.
Yeah, he kept the aesthetics of the school really well.
I think it's a well thought out system. I think it uses real law enforcement experience, and unfortunately, some people who have been in gunfights or in that type of vocation or profession, you look at a hallway different, you look at a doorway different, you look at exits and access differently, because you look at it more of a tactical situation, and you can see that every bit of that is going to play. I like the fact that it's layers. Go back to you vets out there. When we lay up concertina wire, tank ditches and minefields, or the enemy does that, they'll lay them up in depth. They just don't put up 3 strands of concertina wire, because 3 strands of concertina wire can be breached rather quickly. It takes some time. It's an effort. I can't just walk and go through it. I got to put a Bangalore torpedo or some sort of apparatus, or even cut it. It takes time to get through one obstacle. If I can get through one and then push on, then that's not much of an obstacle for me as a tactician or someone who's on an assault. I got to go through the 3-strand concertina wire. Then I got tanglefoot on the other side of that. I got a ditch I got to negotiate after that. Then I got 3 more strands of concertina wire that I've got to get through. I've got 9 layers of something that I've got to get through. You're sure slowing me down, and it's going to make it's going to make my probability for success. It reduces it because also at the same time I'm cutting your wire, blowing your wire, or using some sort of a Bangalore torpedo to get through it. I've also alerted you that I'm in your wire. I'm at your obstacle. So now I'm going to start taking direct fire on top of that. And I say all that to say that that's what 3D response does. It makes it difficult for the intruder to get into the school. It makes it difficult if he does get into the school and is recognized as a threat. Then the school starts to close up. The turtle goes into its shell. As seconds go by, the more obstacles are popping up in front of your intruder or your assailant. But at the same time, the law enforcement has been notified immediately, and the cavalry's on its way. When they get there, they'll put the shooter down where they find the shooter. But the shooter can't mix with the victims in the interim. And we saw on Uvalde, we saw it on Parkland. Even saw it on Covenant, which I think was a pretty quick response time, but still was a response time. How long it takes when officers get there before they can get shaped up, and start moving to do exactly what they're there to do, which is neutralize that threat. And I'll go back again. 30 seconds is a long time in a gunfight.
Do you mind if I piggyback on that, Joe?
Sure, you ride that till the wheels fall off.
Yeah, I won't go long. The multi-layered approach. If you go back and you look at the fire suppression system, the leading cause of death to children in schools in the 1900s was fires. The fire code was written in the late 1800s and sat on a desk until basically 1958. Because in 1958, 95 people lost their life to a school fire. After that fire, legislation came out and enforced the fire code. If you look at what the fire code is, it's a multi-layered system. It's not just, a sprinkler. There's 9 or 10 different layers that go into a fire suppression system. And it's designed to get the fire department there faster, put out or contain the fire, and provide a keep it simple, stupid plan for the teachers to get their kids to safety. Well, since the fire code has been enacted, that was the last time that a student lost their life in a school to a fire. I don't know how you can't see that multi-layered system has been effective. We went from losing hundreds of lives of the years to fire to all of a sudden they're done. And then if you look at the rest of society, you look at a car. If the first car that was made didn't have a seatbelt, but then people were getting killed in their cars, so they put seatbelts in them. Well, people still started to die, so we need more. So they put airbags in them. And now you have lane sensors, you have backup cameras, you have all these safety features. When you step in your vehicle in today's world, you're literally walking into a multi-layer system to keep you safe while you go from point A to point B. Point being is that we can't throw a single layered system into a problem that is so comprehensive to fix the problem. And that's where we're stuck at. And we need this paradigm shift to look at what have we solved in the past as far as keeping us alive and keeping our kids safe. It's multi-layered. It's a system. It's not we have safety, we have visitor management. Your visitor management ain't gonna do jack shit for a kid who pulls a gun out of his backpack in the science room. Sorry, that's day-to-day operations. We have security cameras. I don't think a security camera has ever stopped a bullet. They're great for solving a theft, but they'll never stop a bullet. Arm the teachers. Great. Is the good gun where the good gun needs to be when it's needed, when a bad gun is there? And then that's a whole nother topic that I go down on. But what we basically, I think the blueprint's been there all along. It's the fire suppression system for a different threat. And when you actually expand it, you can look at OSHA, look at airplane safety, look at any type of safety you want. It's multi-layered.
No, I agree, because if a layer fails, then what do you do after that? Depends on, I guess, what you're protecting. If it's precious enough, then you install other fail-safe systems behind it. Um, yeah. I never thought of this approach. I'm thinking get more good guns in the school and the bad guns to stay out. I didn't think about this type of approach. A little ashamed of myself with my background in military and law enforcement. Uh, it's almost a no-brainer, isn't it? To do these small steps to protect our children and make it difficult for a psychotic killer to enter our schools and massacre our children. We protect our banks. But guys, now Jason, we've got a webinar on the 29th. Am I right?
Yes, we do.
Hey guys, that's a Teams webinar where Jason and his partners and staff will actually go into a little more detail than what we did tonight. We kind of used 3D response, and we looked at Parkland, Uvalde, and the Nashville Covenant school shootings, and just said, well, if 3D was there, what would it have done? But now Tuesday night, Jason's going to go through a full breakdown on this. And by the way, this is a patented system. It's a no joke system. This system is so unique that they've achieved a U.S. patent for it and its components. But I'm about to post in the comments the link to go register for this Teams meeting on the 29th, because we're also going to explain to you what you can do as parents, what you can do as concerned citizens, what you can do as responsible gun owners who are sick and tired of hearing about children being slaughtered in schools, what you can do about it. And guys, for just a fraction of what we sent to Ukraine, we could put this in every school in the United States, and 100%. No one can say that one thing's going to stop an incident like this from happening. But I will say that this will have a significant factor. Will be a significant factor as to what the casualty rate is and the death toll it is on these soft targets we call schools that these maniacs are going into. So I don't have any more. I'd like to go to Carl. You got audio yet, my friend? If not, I'd like to go to co-host Bruce Wayne and Fidgy. You guys want to say anything about this before we close it out?
Yeah, I just gotta say I'm blown away, Jason. It's an incredible system. I was kind of with Joe at the beginning. I was like, well, like, let teachers carry, but you've really made a believer out of me. And the more I see, the more I learn, the more I believe in your system. I'm just really impressed with all you've done, and I sure hope that this gets implemented in every school in the country.
Yeah, this is an amazing system. I never really got on board with the teachers carrying thing because I don't know that teachers would want to, and that would be a big mark against that, as well as just their beliefs on it in general. They may not. Yeah, and having a gun in the classroom always kind of concerned me too. But seeing a system like this is a much better solution. It's well thought out. It seems to be well executed. Yeah, if we can get children deaths down to nothing, all for it.
Folks, go to 3D Response. It's running on the ticker underneath us here. I posted a very long link, but it's a Teams meeting link. But it'll take you directly to the Teams spot where you need to register for the webinar on Tuesday. But if you don't come to the webinar on Tuesday and you feel like the rest of us do, which I think anybody that sits and takes the time to listen and understand this would feel the same way that we do. Figure out what school board member you're going to talk to. Figure out what administrator you're going to send a letter to. Figure out what state legislator you're going to send a letter to. Let's get the SHIELD Act passed in every state so that there's a pool of funding that's not going to Ukraine, but it's going to the school down the street to protect our children. We're about 10 years too late on this. We should have done something like this years ago. It should be in every school still today. It should not be a concern for kids that go to school that they're going to be shot or have no protection, and it shouldn't be a concern for parents who send their children to school. This is in this great nation that we have. This whole debate that popped up in our night court space shows that we do was on gun control. I think every person who is a 2A advocate should be stomping their feet for this. This is the answer. When your gun grabbers say, well, you like guns because you like dead kids. Nobody likes dead kids. This is disgusting for everyone that's got a heart and a brain. I'm not saying there aren't some sick individuals out there that think otherwise, but other than that, nobody thinks that dead children are okay, are acceptable. But taking guns away won't. We took narcotics away and controlled substance away in 1970. If you think that we would have trouble scoring a bag of meth or cocaine or crack cocaine or marijuana illegally on the streets, then you just haven't looked. It's out there. You do the same thing with firearms. They're still going to be out there. It doesn't solve the problem, but 3D response, in my opinion, absolutely solves the problem. If you want to go into a school and submit yourself to stand there and get shot down in the hallway without killing children, which I guess was your goal in the first place, then knock yourself out. I'm down with it. But Jason, if you want to say something in closing, I think that's the show, my friend.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, and to everybody, I'll go back again. We started this grassroots. This is law enforcement, educators. This was not out to be multimillionaires. We did this because we truly have a heart and we care about how to keep our children safe. And based upon the experience that we had in our group, we came up with a system that we have proven will minimize the loss of life. And it's frustrating to see that it's become political from my end, and that's a whole nother topic. But this should never be a political topic. We need to do what's right for our kids, and we need to give the kids and the teachers and the responders the tools. And that's what we created. And I'll leave it there. Thank you, Joe. Nice job.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody that tuned in to watch this. We kind of put it together last minute. I'm probably going to do another one maybe next week. But the goal is to get this word out. Everyone needs to take the time to listen to it. The problem is you can't understand 3D response in 10 or 15 seconds. You do have to commit. You need at least half hour, but really an hour is better to really understand and absorb what's really happening here with this 3D response. It's such a comprehensive system. We didn't even touch on the fact on trying to identify children that might have psychological issues that could lead to school violence. We haven't even addressed the 3D response, or we haven't even talked about the 3D response addresses that as well in the aftermath. Let's say that 3D response is in the school. Somebody shoots the glass and they get coated with the coating, and then the police come in, they gun this person down in the vestibule. No children were injured there. That school does have injury. There's going to be a psychological. That's a lot of violence. That's a lot of stuff going on at the school. But 3D response covers that as well. Jason, how many of you've got a whole psychological, or I say psychological department. There may be another term for that, but you've got a whole mental health department attached to the system. Am I right?
Yeah. So Michelle Frauenschuh is the name. One of our owners, she is 25 years, I think she's done as a clinical psychologist she gets all court ordered juveniles that are homicidal and suicidal. Her office is strictly focuses on that. And that's a whole nother lane to go down. But when I walk, through a school, or I meet with threat assessment teams and I look at who's on your team for these threat assessments, and you have a school counselor there, you have a teacher or whatever. And the problem with that is school counselors' background is more for autism and learning disabilities. That's a big difference between homicidal and suicidal children. So you need to create a team that actually fits the need. And that's a big misstep that we're doing. Again, that's a whole nother conversation. I could go off on the prevention for an hour and a half, but yeah, that's a huge part of our system.
Well, it's also something, folks, that we're going to do another special night court for. We're going to put that together. I want to talk about. I call them bookends to the system. One in the beginning, one at the end. But I do want to focus on those because that is also a very unique. Look, there are other companies out there doing this. There's other companies, they'll come out there and they'll put some film on your glass to give it some protection so that it can't be blown out and then walk through. There are other companies that will come out and they'll do metal detectors for you. There are other companies that put up cameras. Other companies that put up fire detection systems or gunshot detection systems to tell if gun fires is in the vicinity and what direction it came from. There really isn't one out there that has a full comprehensive system. When I say comprehensive, I'm talking about from trying to identify children that are in need of some supervision prior to some event like this happening, to the fact that an event does happen, it's going to mitigate the loss of life. But even if it's the mitigation of loss of life, that's still going to be a harrowing situation for children to endure. They've got the psychological help in the department to help with the back end of it. So when I say comprehensive, I'm super impressed with what 3D response. And it's not just Jason. There's a whole group of former law enforcement officers and psychologists and engineers that are behind this. I've met the whole crew. Pretty impressive guys. And they got Detective McGruff taking a bite out of the crime in the lead. So I do encourage everyone, if you don't want to come to the webinar on Tuesday, that's good. That's great. I understand. But go to 3D Response and look at it for yourself, and then figure out who you need to call to make sure that happens in your school district. We need to get the word out for this, and we need to be talking about it. I'm on X. There's a lot of things we talk about on X that are worthless, but in my opinion, this is something that is not. But with that, guys, that's going to be the show tonight. We're going to have a little after party space in about 20 minutes. If all you folks on X, if you're not following myself, Bruce Wayne, Jason, Pidgey, or even Carl the Destroyer, who is Carl, smart-ass Carl on X, you should give us a follow, come to the after party, and we'll keep talking about this. I want to thank everyone. Thank you.
Hello.
No.
And did you ever get any money from Myalansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
None of those fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the Pachettes?
No. I don't even speak to it. I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like him?
No.
Night Court with Joe Lanou, live on X.
Also known as Duck Corella. I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent to criminal.
You got any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of intent to criminal.
You have any profession?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent
You have
to
any
criminal.
occupation?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made intent
Are
to
you a
criminal.
known racketeer?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made